And if the answer isn't totally clear to you, so that you are able to trust it implicitly, ask more questions, because that which has the intent of restoring your sanity to you will have a way to share with you what convinces you, not coerces you, but convinces you at an experiential level, and thus allows your trust to increase as you cautiously and carefully extend more and more trust. At some point, you have to make an investment of yourself in the process of your awakening. And it always feels risky because it has you operate outside of the definitions and the rules that you have made up that make you feel secure. Again, ask what they are, your brothers and sisters, or anything. Ask what they are of the capital T teacher of reality, and hearing his answer, you too will laugh at your fears and replace them with peace. For fear lies not in reality, but in the minds of children who do not understand reality. You see, this gives you permission to not kick yourself in the seat of the pants because you're afraid. Of course you're going to feel afraid because you're leaning into the unknown. You're making an investment in that which is beyond your current parameters for being. But without throwing your anchor beyond the parameters you're presently using, you will have no means of enlarging the borders of your tent, enlarging the borders of your consciousness, to have a more whole experience that will encourage you to have enough trust to throw your anchor a really long way. It is only their lack of understanding, children's, which frightens them. It's only your lack of understanding which frightens you. And when they learn to perceive truly, they are not afraid, and neither are you. It is not the reality of your brothers, or your father, or yourself which frightens you. You do not know what they are, and so you perceive them as whatever you've made them up to be, ghosts and monsters and dragons. Ask of their reality from the capital O one who knows it, and he will tell you what they are. For you do not understand them, and because you are deceived by what you see, you need reality to dispel your fears. You say, oh, I really want to be a healer. I have this vision of having a healing center, and I know I have a God-given purpose. But you know, that usually occurs to those who see being a healer as something, one, unlike his patient, does for and to the patient. But healing happens with involvement. Healing is an experience of sharing. And your immediate thought is, that's going to take effort, and that's going to take time. That's going to take a degree of involvement which isn't really that delectable to me. But that's what it takes. The saying is that infinite patience brings immediate results. When you realize that your brother and you are worth the experience of fulfillment that follows involvement, that follows the allowing of sharing, not sharing mutually agreed upon definitions, but sharing the truth that's revealed without reservation. To be willing to take all the time you think it's going to take if you're looking at it from your best definitions. You will find that the prolonged element of time that you were afraid it would take because of how deep-seated the other one's problems were, that time will be cut short. Why? Because you were being willing, because you were willing to be with that one for as long as it might take. Because your desire to function within the singularity of mind, your proper use of your mind was more important to you than the amount of labor you conceived it would take, and the amount of time that you imagined it would take. As long as you are trying to determine whether it's worth it to you or not to be involved, you are keeping yourself separate. You are not entering into sharing, and you are using your mind poorly, and you are denying yourself the very thing you want. The joy of sharing healing. The joy of, quote, being a healer, unquote. Healing simply cannot occur by remote control or the exertion of power over something else, different and separate. Would you not exchange your fears for truth if the exchange is yours for the asking? For if God is not deceived in you, you can be deceived only in yourself. Yet you can learn the truth of yourself, of the Holy Spirit, who will teach you that as part of God, deceit in you is impossible. When you perceive yourself without deceit, you will accept the real world in place of the false one you have made. And then your Father will lean down to you and take the last step for you by raising you unto himself. If you want to see your world transformed, you've got to back off from your conditioned tendency to manipulate it into better order. You've got to be willing to step back from it and turn your attention to the source of truth. You've got to want to know what the truth is and reach for it beyond your conditioned thinking. And you've got to abandon your fears about your world or your brother. And you've got to abandon all the rules of etiquette or proper behavior that everyone must abide by if they're to get your respect. And you've got to abandon all the little, small-minded criteria that you hold your world to and yourself. And inquire of that which knows the larger picture. Why? Because you're tired of suffering. And you're tired of not being able to respond to the calls for love in the ways that resolve them. And because you finally know that the only way you're going to be able to see these transformations is when you bring your mind into a singular state. That's not confused by your fears. That's not confused by your inability to distinguish between truth and error. That's not terrorized by a lack of a choice for peace. And then you've got to let in the experience that follows that kind of an inner commitment to that which is beyond your present frame of mind, so that you might be blessed with sanity again. Sanity that makes you happy all day long and anticipate the next all day long that's coming along. Now, I'm telling you that when you do this, you will find that whatever involvement, whatever intimacy you are required to become involved in with your brother, the motivation for it will be there. And the ability to not be discouraged will be there. once you decide not to judge according to appearances, according to their presentations, or according to your best assessment of their presentations, your best judgments, and you're willing to say, if there's anything at all right there where my brother is, it has to be the Christ and nothing less. And that is where I'm going to hold my attention. That is the standard by which I insist upon apprehending, conceiving of my brother, whether he sees it or not, whether she sees it or not. Because anything less that I engage in will constitute my hell, my ongoing ignorance, my lack of inspiration. And I'm not willing to sacrifice that for anything. And we're going to go back to where we began. You complain that this course is not sufficiently specific for you to understand it and use it. Yet it has been very specific, and you have not done what it specifically advocates. This is not a course in the play of ideas, but in their practical application. Nothing could be more specific than to be told very clearly that if you ask, you will receive. I promise you something. The practical application of what the Course teaches is a lot less work than what you're currently engaged in. And with love, I will leave you with that. And I look forward to being with you next week.